Okay, welcome back. And our guest is Alhaji Ibrahim Abdullahi, Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the PDP. The PDP for a long time was the party in power, and then it lost power and has been scrambling since then. It might have been this year, but it turned out not to be so, as we've just been hearing from both Alhaji Abdullahi and some commentators that have called in. This was something that was internally inflicted. I'd use the analogy of an unforced error in tennis. But Alhaji Abdullahi, you heard Ola from Abuja. He was quite, energized in his submission. Some of it you had also said yourself. But do you have any commentary on his take on the affair? He brought in the name of Wike, which I was going to come to, because the PDP is certainly more than Wike, I would imagine. Yes, he's an integral part of it. We'll come to the whole matter of the role of Wike and the G5. But do you have anything that you wanted to comment on Ola's submissions?
Yes, let me again commend you for your effectiveness and efficiency in moderating conversations of this nature. I did hear you respond to him that, okay, it's not any different from what I have said. People often get agitated over nothing, and they tend to just contribute for the sake of contribution. Otherwise, I don't know what he has said that is different from what I have said. First, if he is talking about the 2011 participation of Goodluck Jonathan against the zoning arrangement to the north, because he succeeded Yaradua, who should run 8 years but did not, and he completed his tenure and still aspired, when many believe it should be the turn of the north. And then repeated that in 2015 and lost the election. Merely in participating into the presidential election of 2011, he has put a rest to the zoning arrangement, if there was any. And that was why some of us said, no, it should be opened in 2015, in 2023, in 2019, for anybody that is suitable, across the divide to aspire. We are 25 years old, for crying out loud. If we promoted zoning arrangement when our democracy was relatively nascent, now 25 years after, the party has evolved into a behemoth of some sort where we would allow the best man for the job. And this best man can come from the southwest, he can come from the south-south, he can come from the southeast. He can also be from any of the northern region. So that was why some of us were not decided on the issue of zoning the presidency, to the south, like they wanted in 2023. We said we could open it for the best man to get the job. And that was it. I said that much. I also mentioned the fact that we lost a substantial followership from the southeast in particular as a result of losing Peter Obi, who was the running mate in 2019 to Atiku Abubakar, which we shouldn't have done. But leadership failure, which I have admitted we went through. The IU-led NWC was arrogant, was haughty. It was far and clueless to a large extent. I am one person who is a member of this body, and I have sat here to tell you that things should have been done differently. We should have gone beyond mere rhetorics and gangsterism, or the grandstanding, rather, that we put, to go and lobby and ensure that we were able to reconcile fully with these people before we went to poll. And we should not also have allowed the divisiveness that characterized the PDP before we went to poll. And even the decisions that IU took after the election.
I apologize for butting in, but yes. Mr. Lukman in Ghana has been waiting to join the program. Good morning to you, Mr. Lukman in Accra, Ghana.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for Mr. Abdullahi for coming on board. But I'm highly disappointed in most of what Mr. Abdullahi is saying over there. As a leader in a country, as one of the executive member of one of the most biggest political party in Africa, I think most of them should be able to speak in a manner that they will put the country to the whole world with great integrity. When Mr. Abdullah is saying that the election is the worst, you need to break it down for us. We conducted an election in 176,600 polling units. They should be able to tell us the percentage of area that has irregularity. We did not have up to 1,760, which is 10%. So if we have problem in 10% of irregularity, and we had regularity in 90%. They are throwing away the 90%, and they are trying to rubbish the election with the 10% of the irregularity. That's been unfair to Nigeria and the INEC. Most of them refuse to speak about the beavers' activeness. Most of the governors that can easily win election in previous election that was conducted under PDP lost ordinary Senate election. And you are saying the election is the worst. Can you tell us what you mean by the worst? You should be able to define it. People should not come on national TV and just be putting out information without backing up with evidence and facts. That is so bad. You as a PDP leader are supposed to know that you will lose that election because you lost a man that delivers South-East, South-South, which is your stronghold. You lost him to Labour Party, which is Peter Obi. So how can you expect PDP to win? Even if you claim that the PDP, the G5 are not doing anything or they don't have any impact, what about Obi? The 6 million supposed to be for PDP. And you lost that out. And people are saying, and INEC came out, said their server has been attacked 162 times on that day. And you expect them as well to still transmit the results. If at the end the server was being attacked, they rigged the elections through the server, you will still be blaming INEC. I think we need to be very, very careful. If Mr. Abdullahi left that and said, Mr. Yori, I'm bringing you 10,000 naira the next 20 minutes, and he left that and maybe he fell down, they rushed him to hospital. Can Mr. Yori blame him that he didn't bring the money? Because he has made something ahead that is more ahead of the money he's bringing for you. Anything can happen at any time. But we must prevent the circumstances. That is what INEC did, that they couldn't be able to transmit the report.
Okay, Mr. Lukman, I want to thank you very much for calling in. Serious exception taking to your assertion, Mr. Alhaji Abdullahi, that this was the worst election. You could not back that up, according to that caller. And so how plead you?
Well, it's relative, depending on how you choose to look at it. I was careful in the use of the word worst, and I'm still not withdrawing that word. For the excuse me, for the time I have been around and have been participating in election, I can tell you here unequivocally that that election was adjudged by international community and Nigerians. Observers and civil society organizations that took part in that election describe it as such. If the example and the analogy he gave of wanting to or pledging to give you a 10,000 and I forsake, I mean, it still doesn't stop the fact that I did not bring you that money. So what we are saying is that what they told us they were going to do, they should have foresaw the possibilities and the implication of voting manually, which turned out as a situation. They should have foresaw all these possibilities. If they come on election day and tell us that 190-something times their site has been hacked, that's not anybody's problem. They gave us all the assurances and the guarantees that they were going to make effective use of their beaver. And even the IREC. I mean, for crying out loud, if problem comes, are you now saying I should come and blame myself or go and blame anybody? And in any case, he also mentioned the loss of Peter Obi. It's something I have said at the onset of this conversation, that we should have done and approached that election differently. We should not have allowed the remote and immediate causes that precipitated, the exit of Peter Obi out of PDP to go and float a political party as new as Labour, relatively 3 months in the race, and he's able to mobilize the number of votes in millions that the PDP and Atiku mobilized. So I was in admission in the beginning that we were wrong to have allowed that happen. I have blamed the leadership. I have owned up that we had weaknesses on our part. But that does not take the fact that we have also seen lapses and monumental weaknesses in the electoral umpire. And they did not keep to their words and all the assurances they gave the world. Okay,
sir. Be that as it may, and as you said, the matter is in court, as indeed it is the right of the party. Your party is not the only party that is in court. But this was going to be a conversation. I know it could not but come into it. This was going to be a conversation about the internal crisis and the future of the PDP. So I understand how these sort of matters had also come in. But when you look at the crisis within the PDP, the G5 governors, of which Governor Wike is an integral part, in fact, a foremost part, and maybe some other aspects of it. It is how that is going to be resolved that I'll next be seeking your impressions on. But in the meantime, I want to thank Mazi Okoroafo in Arochukwu for holding on all this while. Good morning to you, sir, Mr. Mazi Okoroafo.
Good morning. Good morning, Sir. That's Mazi Okoroafo from United States. Well, there are things you have to look into. That number one, there should be power and money. The power in PDP, when I say that these are cities that is making PDP shaking up to today. We were expecting PDP as one of the strong opposition party at before. But now, everything has just gone to them. Now, the J5 or the G5, we're talking, only one person survived your state governor. The rest, see my brother in Niger State, see the one in see the one in Enugu, see the one in Jonathan.
And Wike is not contesting.
Now, Wike is not contesting. That was just a start. Now, the thing is this. It is a lesson for politicians. When you are in a political party, you don't think that everything must be the way you want it. You must listen to people's opinions. You must listen to people's thoughts. But in PDP, only one man, because you have access to money, because you have access to power, that is power and money. That is what is happening in PDP. And in PDP, don't take time. By the time we saw the new government, the new head of state, president-elect, what will happen? PDP will just be a Python story. Another political party, I think, I was reading paper this morning. They said they have up to 6 political parties that are under that they have majority in the House of Reps. They have 163. Then APC have 162. And the new opposition parties, the other 5 or 6 or 7, they are not the majority. Now, all this was coming on board. By the time they sit down and arrange themselves, those 163, do you think the other PDP that was leading as opposition party, they will not? All those new parties coming up now, they will start their week. That is why I'm saying that those people in the new political parties stand your ground. Not when you enter the house, then you start leaving your opponent and going to the new party. It doesn't make sense. But the thing is this, PDP is now at a crossroad. That is a standby. It's a time bomb. By 29 May, we'll know whether PDP will stay or not. But the question is this, power and money are derailed. Only one man sometimes this or your state governor. May God help you. But the remaining 4, they are still dangling. But the thing is, if they leave the office, Wahala is going to bust for them. I'm not praying for Wahala, but they should try as much as possible. Put the house in order before they leave office. If they don't put the house in order, PDP is going to go bye-bye. We say, sorry. Good morning. Mazi Okoroafo.
Okay. Good morning to you, Mazi Okoroafo in Arochukwu. Okay. Indeed, that was where we were. That's the whole center of this conversation, which is putting the House back in order. And I think it has started because there's an acting chairman in place. But let's talk a bit about that. How optimistic are you, Alhaji Abdullahi, that this is doable? Because you just heard that viewer say that from his point of view, PDP is at a crossroads. If he gets it wrong now, it could actually, God forbid, go into oblivion. So, and then with the alliances that are going to have to be, I imagine will have to be made now, how does PDP see itself remaining as a credible and a viable opposition, which I imagine would be your wish?
Well, it's not going to be imagination, Mr. Iori. PDP, like I began this morning, is one party that has lived through thick and thin. And it has survived all the other political parties that were formed together with it in 1998. As we
yes, sir, but today it can't do anything without going into alliances with all the other parties that didn't succeed in the election.
It is all survival strategy. It is an essential ingredient in development of a political party. This has happened even in the Western climes. We've seen Labour in alliance with in the UK, what do you call the other political party? We've seen it in America. There are times that you make concession. You know, you partner with a political party to give you majority. It has happened in the First Republic. Zeke went into alliance with his NCNC with the MPC. There are times that you just have trouble like the one we have at hand, and you would be able to take back in retrospect what are the problems, where you got it wrong, to be able to re-strategize for the days ahead. It is essentially what I told you. I did not pretend here, and I'm not about to do, that we have no problems at hand. But responding to your questions proper, the acting national chairman, who was the deputy national chairman North, before he took the acting capacity, you know, is one person that is imbued with sufficient party management. He is a party man with knowledge. He ran for the governor of Yobe. He ran for the governorship of Yobe. He was an ambassador from this country and has been the national secretary. He's been involved. He's remained with this party from 1998. He has been a tested administrator who has now opened, like you can see on the screen, you know, the house to aggregating the views of others, calling every other person. He has not taken side even in those trying times. He has been with the Wikis. He has been with the Atikus. He has been with the Tambuwals. He has been with every other person. I think our problem essentially was those few elements who arrogantly gave themselves or pretended to have the entire knowledge of party management, who today are struggling to even present their face, like the governor of Sokoto State, who as Director General of the presidential campaign and someone who was to run for the presidency, you know, turned out losing his state cheaply to the APC, you know, in Sokoto. And these were the people who moved from APC, where he was, and came and lorded over us and made it look as though they have the entire knowledge. We were in disagreement with these elements by letting them know that, look, we cannot do it this way. You just came back from APC. As Speaker of the Federal House of Representatives, he was in APC. And all through his political life, from PDP, APC, he has not been consistent. And we saw that problem. We told him that much. Look, you cannot do anything. He went and appointed Adamu Aleru, for example, somebody who moved into the party after losing his primaries for senatorial bid in Kebbi State in June, when the primaries of PDP had held. He lost in his own party of APC, and he came again to PDP and wanted the ticket after primaries have held for senatorial district. And these same people connived and gave him that leadership. They did not stop there. They gave him the leadership of the region. I mean, this was the same person who went in his disagreement with Kwankwaso in Kano State and led us to where we are. So we know the in-house problem, intractable problems that we ran into before the election.
Let me bring in, maybe I'll find...
So
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let me bring in maybe our final caller, Mr. Yakub in Dokwemu. Good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, Sibiori, good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in.
And good morning to your guests. Is it Sibiori, Nigerian citizens, we are not a fool. I totally disagree with your guest this morning by using the word of worst election that we have this time around. Because I personally have been participating in elections from when we have a zero party. Since that time up to now, I've been participating in elections. The most credible election and fair election that we have ever had in this country is this last election. And then I stand to be corrected. And then I have my reason saying that. If you could remember, in 2007, here in Ogun State, close to Lagos State here, it is a station whereby the people that was voting at that time are more than the registration of the people registered in that particular state. What can you say to that? See, what is the parameter your guests use to make sure the worst election in this country, especially whereby, have you ever seen before a sitting governor lost election before now? It has never happened. If it happens, you can count it by fingers. But this time around, a lot of incumbent governors, they lost the election. Maybe they want to go to Senate and all that. They lost. See, BFAS did the wonder. The BFAS that INEC put in place, it did the wonder because In last time, I think in 2011 as well, in Delta State, mention 3 or 5 states in this country that pull out 1 million this time around. Even I was expecting Borno, the almighty Borno state, to give us, APC, to give us like 1 million plus. How many did we get from that place? That's to tell you that this time around, real election happened.
Okay. I get the point, and I'm sure Alhaji Abdullahi is also listening as well. Let me go to him so that I can get his response. And I want to thank you very much, Mr. Yakub, for calling in on the program this morning. Okay. We're running out of time, but we'll give you, sufficient time to air whatever your contribution is going to be on this. The assertion of Yakub is that all the kind of phantom votes that we had always had to endure weren't possible this time because of the very beavers that you criticized. Now, nobody's saying beavers was perfect. It failed, it disappointed INEC in certain places. But your general reaction to the idea of there were less fraudulent votes this time than Nigerians have been used to.
Yes, Mr. Iori, let's not forget that we're talking about 2 different elections here. The ones he was able to give example were the governorship election that held 2 weeks later. In fact, over 2 weeks later, because they had to extend the timeline, to be able to improve on the credibility of the first election they held for the presidency. You will agree with me that the effectiveness of the beavers came to play during the governorship, not during the presidential. And the bone of contention here is the presidential election, which I told you we're not satisfied with, and I describe it as worst. The caller said in his own life he hasn't seen an election as credible as this. Is he also saying that he was not around when we had June 12th election that produced Chief MKO Abiola of blessed memory in this country in 1992-93? It remained the most credible election and the reference point, even to Yakubu, that oversaw, the last election. They have made reference to that election of 1993. It still remained the reference point, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa, as the best and the most credible example of how to conduct election. But here you have people promising and pledging and taking as much resources as INEC has taken. All of us went to that election with the assurances it was going to turn out the best, on account of the assurances given to us by INEC. But it turned out short of expectation. And you expect us to come here and say, we are satisfied because your candidate emerged therefrom? No. We had our problem as PDP going into that election. But yes, the election was not credible. But that of the governorship that some people failed, which he cited as example, was a great improvement by far to what we had earlier during the presidential. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alhaji Ibrahim Abdullahi. We're going to have to leave it here. I wish we could continue, but, time, is a despot on programs like this. But I want to thank you very much. Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the PDP was our guest this morning, Alhaji Ibrahim Abdullahi, in our Abuja studio. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folane. Bye-bye for now.